Hey guys, JV here to discuss a piece of art on the Bioware store that may just point to what fans have been waiting for. Last week, the Sarah Ryder lithograph was put up for sale. It's a limited edition print created by Bioware senior concept artist Ramil Sunga, and apologies if I butchered that name. He's worked on several Bioware projects, including concept art for Dragon Age Inquisition, covers for Dragon Age novels, and concept art for Mass Effect Andromeda. Specifically for Andromeda, he created art for the Archon, the Ket Anointed and Destined enemies, and also different structures for the Ket and Remnant. He's a really talented dude, and I'm just a sucker for concept art. I really love it. But in this video, we're focusing on the Sarah Ryder limited edition print lithograph. Besides her looking off into the distance, people really caught on to the number of ships in the background. Of course, we have the giant Nexus in the background, and then in the middle, we've got the Tempest, which I guess is closer to us because the Tempest is smaller than the Arks, obviously. And then we have 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5 arcs in the background. That's Ark Hyperion, Ark Parchero, Ark Natanus, Ark Lucinia, and then Ark Keylethia. Just in case you forgot, here's a quick refresher on how the timeline was supposed to go down for the initiative. The Nexus was supposed to arrive early, before everything else, for some initial preparation stuff and to finish its own construction, and then the first wave of arcs was supposed to arrive shortly after that. The Keylethia, which was supposed to carry Quarians, Drell, Hanar, Elcor, and Volus, was actually delayed because of the biological needs of those different races. They had technical complications, and so they were delayed compared to the other 4 arcs, which all left on time. That was what was supposed to happen, but in reality, all of the arcs and the Nexus encountered the Ket or the Scourge in some form or fashion, which threw everything off. Going through each of the arcs, Hyperion arrived a little later than it was supposed to because it got off course at some point. For some reason or another, I can't remember exactly, but we experienced the fate of this arc throughout the game as Ryder. Ark Parchero is captured by the Ket and tethered to the Archon's ship, and unfortunately the Solarians aboard were experimented on and interrogated. Natanus hit the Scourge and was severely damaged and deemed unsalvageable. Lucinia was also attacked by the Ket, and we experienced that through the story. And then finally, if you guys remember at the very end of the game, the Ark Keylethia did arrive in Helios at some point because we got that transmission, but instead of a, we've arrived, hooray, it was a warning. It was stay away. And that's pretty much where it's been left. The status is currently unknown on the Ark Keylethia. So the Ark Keylethia does not appear in Andromeda like the other arcs because of those very specific circumstances. It was delayed, and then we had that little tidbit at the end, but it doesn't play a major role. So that begs the question, why does the Ark Keylethia appear in this piece of art? We're going to talk about all of the conclusions you could jump to, but the simplest explanation with the least amount of assumptions for me is that this is just simply concept art. The thing with concept art is it won't always point to what's going to be in the game. That's just how it works. And the best example of that is the limited edition concept art book that I ordered, the hardback edition. Again, like I said, I love concept art, so I love just going through those pages and looking at the awesome art that these amazing artists create, but a lot of it did not make it into the game. And again, that is the official art book. And so if we treat this like concept art, it doesn't necessarily point to the fact that it's going to be in the game. That being said, if you're holding on to hope, you could certainly argue, why would Bioware try to print something like this with a limited edition run, 500 copies, if it didn't mean something, if it wasn't super important? And you could be right, but the fact is we just don't know. Another question people are asking, and it's a valid question, is why sell this art now? Why would you sort of backwardsly lead people on to think, oh, there's the Ark Keylethia, is it going to come in DLC? What's with the timing on this? If you are someone who's really hoping for Quarian Ark DLC, you might look at the timing and say, oh, this is a subtle hint that we're going to see Quarian Ark DLC. That little storyline at the very end of the game is going to be tied up, and we're going to figure out what happened because they're releasing this art right now. Again, I think this is a super optimistic perspective. I'm someone who has been doubtful about the Quarian Ark DLC, and I've shared that across a lot of videos. And so connecting those dots there, I think, is super optimistic. We just don't know when exactly this art was created, and I think if we did, it would give us more perspective on what this means, if it does mean anything. If I'm a part of Bioware and I work in their store in some form or fashion, if I'm planning that, there's got to be some kind of advanced planning that goes along with these limited edition prints. This is not something they just decided overnight. It's probably something they had planned months in advance. So with that in mind, it could very well be that this art was created before launch and it was intended to sell at this time. They just didn't know what the climate was going to be, the mixed reception, and everything that's gone on with the game. Also, remember that huge marketing campaign surrounding the Andromeda initiative with the arcs, Gian Garson, Alec Ryder talking in all those videos, and having to watch watch them and get that one special helmet. I don't think I ever redeemed that helmet, actually. All of that marketing material assumed that everything went to plan with the arcs, and that's what they thought, right, in the story. So it makes sense, but it also assumed that the game wasn't going to bomb, right? The point I'm trying to make is that this piece of art assumes everything went to plan, right? It's an optimistic look. It's Sarah Ryder staring into the distance, you know, looking forward to pathfinding, whether you picked male or female, you know? It's that kind of piece of art that fits that marketing campaign. This very well could have been created with that optimistic outlook in mind and that perspective of, yeah, we're actually going to complete our mission and nothing is going to go wrong. Finally, for the sake of speculation, let's say that this does hint to something that's going to come. And this is a point I've been driving home for a while now, and that's that BioWare plans to introduce the Quarian Ark in the canon of the story, but through multiplayer instead of single-player DLC. Perhaps the introduction of this limited print is for that. It's a subtle hint for that, for something that we can expect in the coming weeks, because they just pulled that Batarian thing, which I covered here on the channel. That was very kind of strange and out of left field in a way, especially after what's gone on. But like I said, it kind of opened the possibilities in a climate where we're not really sure what's going on with Mass Effect. We read certain things, we don't know if they're actually true, and so it really makes me wonder about the Quarian Ark. This presents BioWare with an opportunity to appease certain fans who aren't, you know, throwing their games in the garbage and lighting them on fire by allowing them to experience the Quarians, but again, through multiplayer characters and not through single-player DLC. It's certainly a way to advance the story and wrap up those questions right at the very end of the game. It's like they put it in there, but they didn't explain anything else. And so it's a way to advance the story, but it's also probably going to piss a good amount of people off if they do that. So stepping back and trying to approach this realistically, there are a few routes that this whole thing could go. This, you know, appearance of the Ark Keylessia and this piece of art could mean that there's single-player DLC on the way, a subtle hint. Maybe it's a subtle hint to the Quarians appearing in multiplayer, maybe something they've planned since the very beginning, or it ranges to nothing. This is just concept art and it's nothing to assume anything about. But if this turns out to be nothing but concept art, I have to truly wonder what the hell BioWare is thinking with the timing on this thing. Like we mentioned, perhaps this was set in plan long before launch and they already created the materials, they've already printed them. It wouldn't make sense to back out now because they just lose money on that deal. But we're talking about it right now, so fans are definitely paying attention to this kind of stuff. And if the timing is unintentional, BioWare seems to be completely blind to their fan base. But the fact is, fans pay attention to this kind of stuff. And so if the timing is unintentional, that makes BioWare look like they're completely blind to their fan base. And I'm sure some of you with your pitchforks are going to be like, well, yeah, duh, of course they're blind to their fan base. Look what's happened over the past few months. And hey, depending on how you feel about Andromeda, you may be right. For several months now, there's been a strong social media effort to really get BioWare's attention and let them know, hey, we really want Quarians, whether you guys can do it or not. And it's run by a lot of passionate fans that, you know, support single-player Quarian Ark DLC, whether it's coming or not. And I see it in my Twitter feed all the time. Thanks, Kai. It just represents the fact that people want some kind of resolution with this game, whether there's a sequel or not. And I don't blame them, especially if they enjoyed the game and they're not part of that pitchfork / bandwagon crowd that is just destroying the game and has ever since it came out. Regardless of what happens, I think it would be nice to see the Quarians in some form as some kind of send-off for the game. If we don't get a sequel, I mean, if they live on in multiplayer, I think that would be kind of nice. And a little bit of, like I said, a resolution for those people who are really angry about how this thing went down. So to wrap up my thoughts on this video, does this piece of art point directly to Quarians? Is this a subtle hint, whether it's DLC or multiplayer? Quick answer is, I don't think so. I really just don't believe it is. This is such a small thing, but I could be wrong. There are any number of legitimate reasons why this is being sold right now, but BioWare doesn't look good if this is unintentional because of the timing. That's it for me, so passing it over to you guys, is BioWare teasing the Quarian Ark with this piece of art? Is this a subtle hint to what we might see, or is this really grasping at straws for the community? Are we trying to find stuff that's hidden there, but it's really not? Let me know what you're thinking in the comment section below. If you stayed till the end and enjoyed the video, click the like button and subscribe for more content. Check out my latest videos by clicking the links on screen. Follow me on Twitter and Facebook so you don't miss another video. Sign up with Juniper to receive exclusive discounts on shirts, hoodies, and more at the JV merch store. Click the link for more details. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll talk to you next time.